Сальвадор Альенде, Эрнесто Че Гевара, Фидель Кастро. Не будет...
This is my video update from Budapest, Hungary, on this Saturday afternoon, September the 30th. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with a possible U.S. government shutdown. And the reason the U.S. government may shut down is all because of Ukraine. The Zelensky curse strikes the U.S. government, strikes Congress. And we may get a shutdown because, from what I understand, the Senate wants to get money to Ukraine. The Democrats in the House want to get money to Ukraine. There's about 104, 105 Republicans that want to get money to Ukraine, but the majority of House Republicans are saying no money to Ukraine. And even McCarthy came out with a statement talking to the media, and he said, look, if we just take out, I think it's something like 300 million, this is like a stopgap for in order to prevent the government to shut down, and then they're going to look at, I think, the other 6.4 billion and everything else. This is like a stopgap measure. And so we're talking about 300 million, at least that's how I understand it. And McCarthy's like, look, if we just forget this 300 million to Zelensky, we'll get everything passed and the government won't shut down, and then we can look at how to deal with the really big stuff. So this stopgap measure is not passing because the Senate and the majority of the Senate, they want to get 300 million to the Zelensky regime, and that is why this is not going through, and that is why the U.S. government may actually shut down on October 1st. No path forward, McCarthy says. Senate stopgap bill dead on arrival as shutdown approaches. It looks like the Senate isn't willing to strip Ukraine funds from the continuing resolution. In a Friday night tweet, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said that the misguided Senate bill has no path forward and is dead on arrival. Here is McCarthy's tweet. After meeting with House Republicans this evening, it's clear the misguided Senate bill has no path forward and is dead on arrival. The House will continue to work around the clock to keep government open and prioritize the needs of the American people. All of this because of Ukraine. All of this to get money to Zelensky. The U.S. government may shut down. The U.S. government's going to shut down because it can't pay Zelensky. Interesting. Thomas Massey tweeted, at Speaker McCarthy is right. The Senate CR is DOA. The Senate is willing to shut down our government if we don't send billions more to a war in Eastern Europe. It's swampy tie to Ukraine. Money to our government funding. It's swampy to tie Ukraine dollars to our government funding. That's what Massey said. Yeah, but you see the people in the Biden White House, a lot of people in Congress, that money is how they get paid. So it's like, they want that money to go to Zelensky, because if that money can go to Zelensky, a good chunk of that is going to come right back to various government officials, including a lot of people in the Senate and in the House. So why wouldn't they want to pay themselves? That's why they want this money to go to Ukraine really, really bad. That's why they're willing to have the government shut down. If you're Mitch McConnell, what you're saying, or Lindsey Graham, what you're saying is that, look, if that money doesn't go to Zelensky, then no one's going to get any money. That's basically what you're saying. If that money doesn't go to Zelensky so I can get a chunk of that cash, well, then no one's going to get paid. That's basically what they're doing. Oh, boy. What a mess. But I think the House McCarthy, they'll solve it. I think they'll solve it. But from what I understand, this is just 300 million, and you have a good 6 billion coming up, which is earmarked for the Zelensky regime. And of course, the Biden White House, they want to get a good a total of 24 billion to the Zelensky regime. So this has not ended. This funding to Ukraine dispute is not going to end. So let's now talk about Anthony Blinken, Tony Rockstar Blinken. Tony Rockstar Blinken, he gave an interview to The Atlantic, and The Atlantic, they asked Rockstar Blinken, who is the number one enemy? Who is the number one enemy for the United States of America? And Blinken said, well, of course, it's China. That is what Blinken said. He said that China wants to run the world, and they want a world which is an illiberal world order. That is how China sees the world, an illiberal world order. And he said, the United States, we want a liberal world order. And Blinken said that is the difference between the United States and China. So it's all about degrading Russia, giving more money to the Zelensky regime so you can degrade Russia in order to deter the United States' number one enemy, which is China. That is why more money has to absolutely be given to Ukraine in order to degrade Russia and deter China. So that's what Blinken said to The Atlantic. And then Blinken put out this tweet. Boy, oh boy, this tweet from Blinken. I'm just going to read you exactly what he posted. 82 years ago, Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babin Yar. Soviets buried this history, which today Putin's government manipulates to provide cover for Russia's abuses in Ukraine. The U.S. is committed to justice for Holocaust survivors and accountability for atrocities. That's some tweets coming from the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. And this tweet angered a whole lot of people. And I am just going to read you what I consider to be a very good response, two responses from Ben Norden. This is his first post responding to the Secretary of State. The U.S. government is rewriting the history of the Holocaust, portraying the Soviet Union, which defeated Nazism, as the villain. More than 80% of Nazi casualties were on the Eastern Front. The Red Army liberated Berlin and Auschwitz. Ben Norden then goes on to say that the USSR lost 26 million people fighting and eventually defeating Nazi Germany. Then Ben Norden, he posted this. It's difficult to overstate how evil this U.S. attempt to rewrite history is. The Nazis carried out the Babi Yar massacre with help from Ukrainian fascists whose followers are supported by NATO today. In addition to massacring Jews, they slaughtered Soviet POWs and Ukrainian communists. Then, after the massacres, the USSR liberated Kiev from German occupation in 1943. Washington is trying to turn the victims into the villains. I think Ben Norden's two tweets, his two posts are just spot on. And he's right. It's difficult to overstate how evil this U.S. attempt to rewrite history is. He is 100% right. Remember in a video that I put out, I think like 3-4 days ago from Nicosia, I was talking about Boris Johnson's interview that he gave to British TV where Boris Johnson, he said that Britain won World War II with the help of Ukraine. And then the next day, Ursula van der Crazy, she was speaking at I think it was the awards ceremony for the Atlantic Council or something like that. And she was implying in her speech, you know the speech that I'm talking about, she was implying that Russia had bombed Hiroshima, that the U.S. had nothing to do with the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And she was like, Russia has to be stopped from using nuclear weapons again. The threat of nuclear weapons by Russia has to be stopped again, something like that. And then she was referencing Hiroshima, and she was like implying that it was Russia that had used nuclear weapons in World War II. And then we had the events in Canada, Justin Trudeau. Then we had Trudeau. And we all know what happened there, applauding a 98-year-old SS Galicia NAZI veteran. And now we have this tweet from Blinken. Now in that video in Nicosia, I do believe that I said after the two incidences of Boris Johnson and Ursula, I think I said in that video, you watch. They're trying to rewrite history, and they're going to come up with more narratives to remove Russia from World War II, from defeating the NAZIs. They're going to try to make it as if Russia was the villain, and they're going to try to sanitize the West Ukraine Banderites. I said something like that in that video, and sure enough, look what you have. You have the event in Parliament, and now you have this tweet from Tony Blinken. And I really believe that Trudeau and the entire Canadian Parliament, the Trudeau administration, the entire Canadian Parliament, I believe that they got the memo. They got the message that it's time to rewrite history and to rewrite the history of World War II. Let's start from the history of World War II. And everyone in their own way got the memo, and they made their statements. And I think Trudeau, he got that memo, that it's time for the globalist elite, the collective West, to rewrite history. And I think that Trudeau was like, you know, I can one up Boris Johnson and Ursula. And that's when Trudeau and Freeland and everyone in the Canadian Parliament, that's when they invited this Hunka guy. And it backfired. Trudeau was probably thinking, you know, wow, when Ursula and Borrell and Biden and Blinken, when they see this, they're going to be really proud of me. And it backfired in a big way on Trudeau. So anyway, that is the tweet from Blinken. And now let's talk a little bit about Olaf Scholz. And Olaf Scholz met with the Kazakhstan president, Tokayev, and Olaf Scholz came out of that meeting very, very happy, very excited, because according to the German Chancellor, Kazakhstan is ready to play ball with sanctions against Russia. And Olaf Scholz, he came out of that meeting saying that he believes that Kazakhstan supports the West now. So Kazakhstan has shifted. We've seen a pivot. Kazakhstan is now part of the collective West. Olaf Scholz was very, very happy with the results of his meeting with Tokayev. Of course, Olaf Scholz is delusional, and he has not understood that Tokayev, while meeting with Germany and wanting to do business, wanting to sell energy to a Germany that is desperate for energy, Tokayev was just basically telling Olaf Scholz, yeah, we'll follow sanctions, we'll clamp down on dual use goods, don't worry about it. Can we can we get a deal in place so we can sell you some oil and gas? That's basically what Tokayev was telling Scholz. But Scholz came out of that meeting misunderstanding exactly what's going on, and he's thinking that Kazakhstan and perhaps all of Eurasia, many of the former Soviet countries in Eurasia, he's thinking that they're going to make a shift now to the collective West, and they're going to start placing sanctions and enforcing the collective West sanctions against Russia. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. Olaf, you are naive, my man. You are absolutely naive. Seems to me like you're a little bit stupid, but very much naive. No wonder Olaf Scholz hurt his eye when he was jogging. I mean, Olaf Scholz. Now I understand why Biden was very comfortable during the press conference with Olaf Scholz to say that he was going to blow up Nord Stream. Because I think they all understood that Olaf Scholz is not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. and now I understand why Olaf Scholz has willingly deindustrialized Germany and given all of Germany's money to a clown puppet, a comedian in Ukraine that always wears green. Now I understand. Olaf Scholz is not very bright. His take on things is very stupid and naive. Anyway, I thought I would mention that. I think it's interesting that Germany and Olaf Scholz, they actually believe that Kazakhstan and many of the former Soviet republics in Eurasia are going to actually turn on Russia. Not going to happen. Armenia, yeah, Armenia is going to turn on Russia. The other ones, they're not. The other former Soviet republics, they're not going to do it. Anyway, let's see here. The Spectator, they put out an article. The Eurozone isn't looking healthy. I thought this was an interesting title for an article from the UK Spectator, of which Boris Johnson, I believe, at one point in time was the editor of the Spectator. And here I was thinking that the Russian economy was in tatters. In tatters, I tell you. Nope, it's the Eurozone. The Eurozone isn't looking very healthy. So Russian President Vladimir Putin, he congratulated the citizens of Zaporozhye, Kherson, Donetsk, and Lugansk because September 30th marks the one-year anniversary when those regions decided to become part of the Russian Federation. And Putin also spoke a very interesting speech where he talks about the multipolar world. He spoke at the Russian Latin American conference. It's something like the lower parliament, the Duma lower parliament, Russia Latin American conference is the full name of this event. But from what I read, you have 200 representatives from Latin America attending this event. And they're looking to do business and cooperate with the Russian government and with Russian firms. And Russian President Vladimir Putin, he talked up the multipolar world. He complimented the Latin American countries and the Caribbean countries for their fights, their historic fights for independence and sovereignty. And Putin told all the countries, all the delegates in attendance, that the multipolar world is going to respect that independent fight and the desire for sovereignty that the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean have historically sought after. So it was a very, very interesting speech from Putin. And once again, it shows that Russia is far from being isolated. Very, very far from being isolated. We had the Russia-African summit about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and now you have this big event with the countries of Latin America. And And Putin is pushing the multipolar world. He is pushing it very, very hard. In a live stream that we did on the Duran the other day, someone commented that, I think it was Sparky, commented that Putin is the champion of the multipolar world. And I definitely agree with that. So we had some other big news yesterday. It's a rumor, but I think this is pretty much a confirmed rumor. Which way do I want to go? Let's walk this way. Let's walk this way. It's a bit windy. So I'm thinking if I should stop and put on my dead cat. I think it will be okay. So the rumors, which are pretty much confirmed for October 9th, is that RFK Jr. will announce that he is going to run for the presidency of the United States as an independent. He is going to make this announcement in Philadelphia. And I think this is a very good move, about time that he did this, because obviously the DNC, the Democrat Party, they're not going to allow RFK Jr. to have a fair shot at winning the nomination for the Democrats. Not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. They're still trying to figure out a way to get rid of Biden and to figure out who replaces Biden while sidelining Kamala. They haven't quite figured that one out yet. They want Gavin Newsom. They definitely want Gavin Newsom, but they have Biden in the way, and then they have Kamala in the way. So they're trying to figure that one out. But where's the crosswalk here? To go up this way. But yeah, RFK Jr. Independent. This is going to hurt Biden a lot, I think, as well. Or whoever the Democrat party nominee is, candidate is. I think this move from RFK Jr. is really going to hurt them, to hurt the Democrat Party. All right. And you know what? RFK Jr., I'm sure he's going to get the support of some pretty big donors. I'm thinking Elon Musk. Definitely, Elon Musk. I'm thinking he'll have the media support of people like Tucker Carlson, who will be more than open to providing RFK Jr. a platform to get his message out, and many more independent media sources, podcasts, video channels, the Duran. We would love to have RFK Jr. on a show. So this is a good move. I think this is a good move. This is a smart move. And I think RFK Jr., I think he'll do very well, actually. I think he'll do very well as an independent. So what else should we talk about? Well, I'm in Budapest. I'm in Hungary, so I might as well talk a little bit about Orban and what he said with regards to Ukraine. So the Prime Minister of Hungary, Mr. Orban, said, and I quote, "We don't know how big the territory of this country, in reference to Ukraine, is because the war is still going on. We don't know how big the population is because they are fleeing. To accept a country into the EU without knowing its parameters, it would be unprecedented." That is a quote from Orban, and Orban is referencing all of the talk about admitting Ukraine into the European Union. And Orban is bringing up a good point. He's saying, how can we let Ukraine into the European Union when we have no idea how big Ukraine will be when the conflict ends? We have no idea what their population is. We have no idea what the makeup of this country will be. He's like, we can't let this country into the European Union. So that's a statement from Orban. He's hinting, he is hinting at, but when you read the statement, it feels like he's hinting at the fact that either Ukraine may not even exist, or that whatever Ukraine does exist is going to be a much different, perhaps a much smaller country than what it is now. That's what he's kind of hinting at. An interesting quote from the Hungarian Prime Minister. And let's do one more story, and we'll get into my clown world. Yeah, let's do one more story and we'll get into my clown world. And this story is actually a story that I need to research some more. It has to do with Serbia and Kosovo, because tensions are okay. We're going to walk a little bit. Because we have tensions in Kosovo, Metohija, escalating, and Borrell and Kirby, they warned Serbia. Kirby warned Serbia to back off, because we're getting reports. I can't confirm this. We're getting reports that Serbia has moved a significant part of their military in the direction of Kosovo and Metohija. And Kirby came out with a statement, and he said that Serbia needs to back off. And then we had Josip Borrell, Jungle Joseph. He came out with a statement, and he said that if Serbia doesn't back off and move its military back, then the EU is going to place sanctions on Serbia. So what is going on here, from what I understand, and I need to, like I said, I need to research this story a bit more. From what I understand, there was a shooting a couple of days ago in Kosovo Metohija, I believe in the north area of Kosovo Metohija. I could be wrong about that, but there was a shooting, and basically what happened, it was three or four gunmen opened fire on Kosovo police, and one policeman died and three gunmen died. And then you have the Kosovo administration, the government that administers Kosovo. They came out with a statement, and they said that they have evidence that the weapons used in this police attack were provided by the Vučić, by the Serbian government. And that's basically where we are. And then you have these reports, kind of out of the blue, to be quite honest, from the Pentagon and the U.S. State Department, which claim that they have surveillance which shows that Serbia is moving forces close to the area of Kosovo and Metohija in some apparent military incursion or something like that, is what they're basically implying. And so that's where we are. That is where we are. So I'm going to follow this story. I'm going to follow this story, and let's see what happens. Okay, I think we can do a clown world now. Let's do a clown world. I'm a bit distracted. This is a nice street. Very, very nice street here. Beautiful. All right, so for this clown world, we've got a couple of stories to choose from for this clown world. Okay, we have James Clapper, who was the former, what was Clapper? Like the former NSA director, the former like the top, like intel guy under the the Obama administration, right? And we have Clapper going on CNN and saying that he's worried that if Trump is elected, Trump's going to put Clapper and other people, other government officials and intel people who went after Trump when he was president, that Trump's going to put them in prison. Isn't that incredible? I find that incredible. He's worried. He's telling CNN Clapper, he's worried that if Trump is elected, he's going to go after Clapper and put Clapper in prison. While right now, the deep state, guys like Clapper, are actively working to put Trump in prison. Oh boy, these guys like Clapper, they're just the worst. They are the absolute worst. What else? How about Cleverly, the foreign minister of the UK? He gave an interview yesterday and he said that if the UK does not continue support for Ukraine, then all the problems we are facing now, inflationary pressures on food and fuel, the political pressures caused by a conflict like this will only get worse. That is why the UK government's position is strong. We are bringing this to the attention of all our international partners. It is hard and painful, but it will only get harder and more painful if we falter. Basically, Cleverly, his reasoning is that we need to give more money to the Zelensky regime. We need to destroy our economies more, because if we don't destroy our economies, if we don't give more of our money to the Zelensky regime, well then inflation and and our economies are just going to get worse. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't understand Cleverly's economic philosophy, his economic thinking. It doesn't make much sense. Inflation is bad. It's painful. He said things are hard. But if we don't continue to give money to Ukraine, if we don't continue to deindustrialize, then things are going to get harder. I would think that if you keep your money at home, things get better. But I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing it. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong. Maybe this is some new, different economic school that Cleverly is referencing. Maybe it's the Zelensky School of Economics, the give me money school of economics, and then your economy does better. The more money you give to Zelensky, the better your economy does. I don't know. Oh man, how am I doing on time here? All right. I'm thinking maybe I can do one more clown world here. Let's see. I've got one more. How about this one from Congressman Jim Costa, who said that for 3% of the annual U.S. defense budget, the Russian forces have become 50% less effective. Congressman Costa said, "This is a great deal no matter how you look at it. Thus, as President Zelensky correctly noted, Ukrainians are fighting not only for themselves, their sovereignty and democracy, but also for the whole of Europe and the rest of the world. We need to continue to talk about this because that members of Congress are focused on a lot of different priorities." That's a direct quote from Jim Costa. That's the line. That's the line, everybody. For 3% of our spending, 50% of the Russian military has been destroyed. That is the talking point from Congress. 3%, 50% destruction. That's what they claim. If that is the case, then I don't understand why NATO just doesn't move right into Russia. I mean, if that's the case, if 50% of their military has been destroyed, what are you waiting for, NATO? And if 50% of Russia's military has been destroyed, then what is NATO worrying about when they go on and on about how Russia is going to, if we don't defeat Russia, Russia's going to move west and they're going to take over Poland and the Baltics. How would they do that if 50% of their military has already been destroyed? I just don't understand what the panic is about Russia if 50% of their military has already been destroyed. For 3% of the U.S.'s military spend. If I was the U.S., I would ramp that up to 10%. Spend 10% of your military budget and wipe out 100% of Russia's military. Why don't you? I mean, anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rumble, and Twitter. But now it's called X. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code Good Day. I'll be back to this spot. Take care.